Come with Quarantine This on a spoiler-free review of HBO Max's Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country series, inspired by Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythology. This spoiler-free review of Lovecraft Country is of episode 1 to 5. Without further ado, let's start our Lovecraftian journey. Lovecraft Country is somewhat directed and produced by Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams, and is the top series, I personally think, to watch of 2020. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. If so, feel free to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. Let us know what you think of it. What I believe to be the top series of this year beats Star Trek Lower Decks anyway. If you haven't started watching it, or are thinking of getting into Lovecraft Country, then this spoiler-free review is the place for you to find out. If you've seen episodes 1 to 5 and want to share your thoughts or just catch up, this is a great place to do so. Not only does Lovecraft Country fit in with today's upheaval of the United States and the race riots going on at the moment, but because it is a mesmerizing series starring some of the best acting talent on television at the moment. You, as the audience, you are intrigued and spellbindingly addicted to this series from the offset of your journey on the road of Lovecraft Country. Every actor brings their own talent to their characters they embody. You can tell that the actors have not only researched their characters from the book of Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff, they've also been able to research into the history of the early to mid-1900s of the United States, while being able to bring their own reflections of the past, but also their experiences from the present, while allowing the popular media take on the events in the United States in inspiring them to develop not only the characters and personalities the audience see, but also develop their characters into the series of Lovecraft Country, bringing a soul and a breathing body into the world of Lovecraft Country that helps solidify the world of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country to the audience at home. Before we go into the actors and their characters, I would just like to ask you to press that subscribe button to help us out. If you're enjoying this video, then please press that like button and share for others to watch and have there alongside your own say on Lovecraft Country in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to it. Jonathan Majors, who plays Attikus Freeman, plays a strong-headed, physically able, straightforward man whose emotions seem to control him, while his strategic mind developing from serving the United States Army helps him control his surrounding and what's happening to him and his friends. Jonathan Majors, along with the rest of the cast, never miss a beat. The audience knows his emotions are well controlled, but the audience also feels the sense of the great rage that could break through his exterior at any moment. A rage created by serving a country that shuns and treads on not only him, but his fellow people. An anger towards the people around him who he helped protect alongside their fellow white men. However, Attikus is not stupid. He can control his actions, but his mouth does run away from him at times. His flaws are few, but impactful. His mouth gets him in and out of situations. His lack of poker face betrays what he's feeling. His anger is large and hard to control, and, if not kept in check, he can become self-centered. His major flaw and strength, though, is that he sees his missions through to the end, no matter how life-threatening they may be. If it is for the betterment for other people than just himself, he sees it as a mission worth doing. He is an army man who is trying to integrate back into society, a soldier without a mission and without an enemy he can attack. He is lost in the country he comes back to and is instantly thrown into a world he doesn't know. A world of Lovecraftian monsters and magic, veiled underneath the hostility from the very country he risked his life to help protect. Janae Smollett, who plays Littitia Dandridge, plays a hot-headed woman who rushes into things without thinking. She makes herself believe that what she is doing is for the betterment of other people, but it is just herself propelling her own self forward. Many times other characters have to bring her back down to earth. She doesn't think before acting, doesn't take in the consequences of her actions or how it affects other people around her. This is used, however, to help strengthen her. She isn't afraid of anyone. Whereas Attikus has rage towards his country and countrymen, Littitia has a bitter hatred, a simmering vengeance that explodes in pockets of excess rage with small acts of emotionally charged violence. Whereas Attikus has been trained for the situation he purposely finds himself in, Littitia is not, and her fear comes out, and she does get scared where Attikus wouldn't. But she does not let this hold her back. She draws from the anger and fear of what could happen to her at any point, and twists it into bravado and courage to go in head first while praying she gets out alive. Where Attikus is humble to people when they point out his flaws and when he screws up a situation, Littitia shifts the blame. This is through her smart mouth, just opposing Atticus's hot-headed mouth. Littitia is strong but fragile, thinks she can get along in the world by herself doing what she wants and will always be better than others, only for it to backfire in the form of losing all her money, roof over her head, and making it so family and friends have to snap at her to make her realise her mistakes, of which she is ready to accept, but still deflect some of her mistakes back onto others. Lovecraft Country does develop her character from here, making her more humble in her ideas to help keep her on the right path of the person she originally left home to find. Abby Lee Kershaw, who plays Christina Braithwhite in real life, is a model rather than an actress. If a model wants to break through into acting, then Abby Lee Kershaw has done it perfectly with this character. The producers and casting agent definitely picked the right actress for this part, not only in physical looks, but with the facial expressions of mystery and foreboding doom. Her smile lets you know to be wary of the character of Christina. Her eyes entrap you into her spellbinding eyes that hide not only a mystery and unseen darkness, but a fear and longing. You're not only afraid of Christina Braithwhite, but you feel compassion for her at times. You know she's evil, but you feel she is very much human. She moves and acts like she is a cloud gliding along, being moved by a wind that she controls. The character of Christina gets more mysterious the more you spend time with her. This is not only done through well-scripted dialogue and directions, but also with an actress who can act not only what is written down, but with her face and body language, as if entertaining the audience of a silent movie. The actress doesn't have to speak for you to understand what is going on behind her cold, lively eyes. Jordan Patrick Smith, who plays William, is not only a brilliant actor who can play a brilliant Viking in the form of Uber from Vikings, he is also a brilliant actor in Matt Ruff's HBO Max's Lovecraft Country series. He plays the part of William so well that I couldn't figure out where I'd seen the actor from until episode 4. Jordan Patrick Smith's facial expressions, body language and appearance are completely different to that of Uber, which is what you would expect from a good actor. However, there's a massive difference between Will Smith, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Stephen Amell and actors like Gary Oldman, Daniel Day-Lewis and Leonardo DiCaprio, who manage to give you a completely different person every time, and that is what Jordan Patrick Smith has perfectly pulled off here. The character of William comes across as a plain, simple butler who is also a hitman and undertaker of any tasks for the Braithwhites. He is a man whose very presence lets you know not to even think about screwing with him. Just by looking at William, you know he could break your neck in a heartbeat with one hand. Like Christina, his smile and eyes are filled with mystery and intrigue, leaving the audience to theorize about him, not only his role and part in the cult that creates the antagonists of the Lovecraft Country series on HBO Max, also how he and Christina are linked and how he could be linked to Adam, the leader of the cult and the cult itself. Jonathan Majors, Janae Smollett, Abby Lee Kershaw and Jordan Patrick Smith, who plays Attikus Freeman, Littitia Dandridge, Christina Braithwhite and William, respectively, are the 4 main players in HBO Max's series of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. Other actors and characters to note so far in episodes 1 to 5 are Courtney B. Vance, who plays George Freeman, Michael K. Williams, who plays Montrose Freeman, Wunmi Musaki, who plays Ruby Baptiste, and Janu Ellis, who plays Hoplita Freeman, and Tony Goldwyn as Samuel Braithwhite. One actor I am looking forward to, as of episode 4, coming into Lovecraft Country, is Jamie Chung. I would say why, but this is a spoiler-free review of HBO Max's version of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. I'm interested in your thoughts of these characters and the other characters of Lovecraft Country. How do they come across to you, and which character do you like the most? I'm loving the characters of Christina and William. Attikus is a really good leading character. Not the biggest fan of Littitia or Monrose, but what are your thoughts? If you're still with Quarantine This and you're enjoying this video, then hit like and subscribe button to help this channel grow. Check out our other videos and hit that bell icon to keep up to date with our weekly uploads. Thanks for all the support. Now let's get back into HBO Max's version of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country with episode 1. The series hit the ground running, instantly setting up the tone of the series and pace of the series, but instantly encapsulating the intrigue of the audience with its opening scene. From this rush of visual orgasmic stimuli, it injects the major characters of Attikus, George and Littitia in your veins with great acting, dialogue and locations that let the audience know the baseline of the characters' personalities, histories and therefore a proposed idea of Attikus, Littitia and George and what is to come. Within the first 5 minutes, whether you want to continue to watch the series by the end of this episode, you still want to watch this episode following the characters through to the end of episode 1. An episode that sets the series up as a road trip series, a series where you follow Attikus, Littitia and George from town to town, as they stop off at each racist, sundown and hostile town as they come across a mystery of Lovecraftian-esque inspiration. A series where the three main characters of Attikus, Littitia and George must come to terms of wading their way through a hostile United States to find Atticus's dad and the unveiling of the mystery that is Lovecraft Country and its cults, with places, characters and monsters straight out of the pages of Lovecraft's many Cthulhu mythos stories, only for the ending to completely change the themes and settings of the entire series, subverting audience expectations in the correct way and manner, leaving you on a completely unknown mystery that makes the audience want to come back for more and long for the day the next episode is shown. What were your thoughts on the opening episode? Have the other episodes been bigger and better since then, or do you feel like the series has started to decline? If so, why? With episode 2, where episode 1 is a road trip, this is a horror cult episode in the vein of Suspiria. Attikus, Littitia and George seem to be pretty much at the end of the adventure they set off in episode 1 to completion. They are trapped in the cult's house, finding out about its history, its lore and its members, how the cult works and what its purpose is for, what the cult hope to accomplish and how they are going to accomplish it. Even though this episode is very much an ending to what would have been an okay looking road trip series that may or may not have kept your interest, episode 2 retains your interest. By not seemingly to answer the questions from episode 1, episode 2 also injects new life into the mystery, adds depth and layers to the world of Lovecraft Country and its inhabitants, puts you, the audience, on an edge-of-the-seat emotional roller coaster of an adventure through a haunted mansion of House on the Haunted Hill inspirations and Wicker Man. This episode did bring what I thought was the major plot of the series to an abrupt end. Unexpected to say the least. I was very much intrigued from here where the series was going to go. I think they've balanced this series well. Too many series these days either drag out their main plot, don't focus enough time on the main plot, or fill too much airtime in with wasted dialogue and a slow pace. This series hits its feet running, kept pace and knows how to balance not only the intrigue but the twists and turns that keep a generation of people addicted to short hits of stories interested in what's coming next week. In a world of ever-changing weekly ratings, Lovecraft Country knows how to keep its baseline high while being able to attract new viewers each week. Do you think I'm spot on with my reflection of Lovecraft Country? What were your thoughts by the end of episode 2? Did you feel inspired to keep watching, or were you let down by the seemingly abrupt end to the main storyline? I thought it was a good conclusion to the storyline, but I would have liked to have spent more time with some of the characters they created up to this point. Which characters were your favourite? What were your thoughts on episode 2? Was it a good follow-up? Did you want to see more of the mansion, and would you have preferred this storyline to have been stretched out a bit more? Is the pacing of the series good, or do you think it's a bit rushed or fumbling? Where does Lovecraft Country go from episode 2? When you seem to have stopped a series 8 episodes short, where can you go? Well, episode 3, the beginning of what you would have thought season 2 would be. Even though you don't figure out what the series is doing until the end of episode 4, you do notice that each week is like a horror story unto itself, much like each story of the Cthulhu mythology is. But where Lovecraft books only had a mythology holding them together, Lovecraft Country not only has the Lovecraftian mythology, but the 3 main characters and their stories. At the beginning of episode 3, I honestly thought they were going to give you a completely new storyline where the actors would play the same characters but in different roles. I thought Attikus and Littitia were going to meet again as different people, same personalities and characters but with different stories and backgrounds. I thought this because of how different the story of episode 3 seemed to episode 2. Like an anthology of stories where the characters realise they are under a spell. And this reality isn't quite theirs. However, I was completely wrong. Instead, like I say, it starts off where you would have expected season 2 to start, with the main characters now back home going on about their lives due to the original mystery being over. However, I was still sort of correct. Whereas episode 1 was a road trip movie and episode 2 was a haunted cult mansion of witchcraft and foreboding apocalyptic doom, episode 3 is a haunted house story that runs alongside the perfectly depicted racism of the times, with a storyline that connects the Lovecraftian mythology, a standalone ghost story that involves racism at the time, with enough scenes to add mystery to the characters of Christina and William as they come back into the fold to spar on the main storyline of Lovecraft Country. This episode's main influence, though, is of the racism towards the blacks at that time. The way Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams have created the story, the script, the post-production editing and CG not only creates a great series, but an interesting fan community. I enjoy seeing the theories behind this series and what they think. I enjoy the research that the audience do themselves into the subjects of this program. Lovecraft Country is not only inspirational for budding young directors and writers, it's also inspiring to do correct research and deep research into the actual history of the United States and the racism people went through at that time. The fan base for this community isn't race heavy either, whereas some series that really try hard to be politically correct or pushing an agenda, Lovecraft Country actually brings in fans and fans of different ethnicity. You can tell that even though it is an every white man is bad attitude to it, when it comes down to it, the book and visuals are deeply researched. As Lovecraft Country is a story from the 90s written by a white man, it was not written for the purpose of it bashing on white men, but rather written to show the racism of the early and mid 1900s. It was written as not only a nod of inspiration to Lovecraft, but to also do what Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, MC Hammer cartoons and the movies of Denzel Washington, and in the past the movies of Sidney Poitier were doing at that time, helping curve the racism out of the generations of people born in the 80s and 90s. The only thing that sucks about the community are the memes. This series was not made for memes. They are well too complicated and overdone. The only moment built for memeing so far is from episode 3, where we have a lift. Episode 4, yet again, a completely different type of genre mixed in with the Lovecraft storyline, where the first seemed to be inspired by the general mythos and introducing people to places like Arkham, Innsmouth and the White Family and other nods. The second episode approached the main plot and lore of Lovecraft Country and its own mythos, juxtaposed to that of Cthulhu mythology, while introducing the old gods who were at war with the great old ones. Third episode was inspired by that of the Shunned House. The fourth is more like the inspirations behind the Nameless City or At the Mountains of Madness. The fourth episode is more of an adventure episode, like that of Indiana Jones. The fourth is a great break from the horror, the doom and the gloom and the racism. It is a light-heartedly funny episode balancing the humour of Jordan Peele that he uses in Get Out and Us to break the tension and horror of J.J. Abrams perfectly. It's a gripping adventure due to the twists and turns that series has already given you. It's an adventure you're not sure where it's going to end up. A lot of this episode is rather stupid and not in a good way. If you really wanted to be critical about this episode, then you can ask so many questions that would clearly and easily be answered with one simple answer. Plot convenience. This episode leaves you on edge by the end of it though. Even though this is an episode that escapes from most of the nitty-gritty of the series, it's an episode that throws a lot of lore at you, followed by twists that leave you with questions that need to be answered by the end of this episode. Due to the pacing of the series, you know you won't be waiting for those answers, and you also know you'll be left with loads more. Now we reach the halfway mark with episode 5. What an episode. There is loads to take in with this episode as it expands on the magical lore with Christina and William, whilst Attikus and Littitia research further into the cult and mysteries they are ungraving. The cultural background, the historical racism, but delving deeper into racist characters and the twists and turns of their psychology. Deepening and expanding on everything that makes up Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. This episode gives answers to many fan theories, and it's great to see just how much of a deep-rooted fan base this series is creating for itself. This episode is not only interesting when it comes to the storyline, lore and mythology, but also visually, with scenes that leave you in awe and some that leave you feeling very uncomfortable. No one likes spit. The CG in this episode is amazing and literally makes your skin crawl. The best thing about this series, something that makes it stand out that they let shine through on this episode, is the dialogue. Not one word is wasted. Every word matters. They build up dialogue that is not only natural, but realistic on a conversational level and an emotional one. You understand why and when characters have certain conversations that propel insight into their characters, the storyline and the lore, while setting up intrigue and interest into what is to come. Every character has their own personality, and the writers know how to write each one while the actors perfectly embody their roles. Every bit of this series, and specifically this episode, never wastes 1 second of airtime. The visuals are stunning, the effects amazing, the script, dialogue, screen direction, everything is spot on. Don't get me wrong, it's not all perfect. There are certain bits that you notice that are either plot holes or areas that are easily picked apart with normal logic. However, every movie or TV series does this. There will always be scenes that can't be fully explained away, or part characters seem to have forgotten about. With Lovecraft Country though, it doesn't damage the series like it does with others. Episode 5 is the peak of the series, but hopefully not the peak of the ride the audience is on with HBO Max's version of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. We're here at Quarantine This. Remember to subscribe. Would love to know what the questions burning on your mind about Lovecraft Country. What's your theories behind what is going on? Not only is the directing, acting, script and pacing of not only the series but each episode up to date and above normal standards, the post-production, the visual lighting effects and the unnoticed CG, the unseen bits in the background that only the most keen-eyed catches, bits of not only mise-en-scène, but the way they edit certain background movements to subconsciously bring in the tension to the viewer's minds, along with the music. The music is amazing as well, combining old country black music combined with political and culturally inspiring speeches of the time that helped curb the racism to today, with scores that set tones and moods seamlessly together, but also up-to-date alternative music tracks by the likes of Marilyn Manson to help keep the audio interesting and engaging to the audience. I will be reading the book before the end of the series so I can do a comparison. The book looks interesting and I would love to know what some of the changes, if any, they made were. If there is anyone listening that has read the book, what did you think of it and how does it differ to the series? What's your thoughts and hopes for the series? Are you enjoying the characters, the storyline and the pacing? Some articles have come out bashing it, saying that it's going over the top with their political racism correctness, but most don't mind as it is apt for that time. Do you think a show like this is the correct and proper execution to ignite the conversation about race and culture rather than rioting and looting under what seems to be the guise of mainly but nowhere completely peaceful protests? Do you think the BLM movement should be involved with the conversation of Lovecraft Country, a novel written by Matt Ruff, a white man in the early 90s, to show the history of racism and how it's changed? This is the best series out there for this year. A series I really hope they can continue. I hope to see more of these characters after these 10-episode series has finished. I just hope that the book isn't completely used up by the end of this series. If it does end up being all used on this first series, I hope Peele and Abrams can help steer the writers in the correct direction to keep any other series as strong as the first one appears to be. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you have, and remember to press subscribe and that bell button to keep up to date with our weekly upload. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, this has been Quarantine This. Take care and stay safe.